What happens when a beloved soul singer sits down for what should be a simple morning talk show interview, only to face an unexpected attack from one of television's most controversial hosts? It only took 29 seconds of Joy Behar's relentless questioning for the entire set of The View to erupt into complete chaos, ending with security being called and a guest being forcibly removed from the studio. This is the exclusive inside story of how a routine promotional visit turned into one of the most shocking moments in daytime television history. Last night, sources inside the studio revealed the explosive details of what really happened when Teddy Swims appeared on The View to promote his latest album. What you're about to hear will shock you to your core and show you exactly why this talented artist walked away with his dignity intact, while Joy Behar was left looking like the villain she truly islanded. The morning started like any other at the View studio in New York City. Teddy Swims, whose real name is Jayton Dimsdale, arrived early for his scheduled appearance. He was there to talk about his new music, his recent tour, and his incredible journey from singing covers in his bedroom to becoming one of the most recognizable voices in modern soul music. The producers had briefed him on the usual questions. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Whoopi Goldberg was in her usual spot at the head of the table, ready to moderate the discussion. Sarah Haynes sat to her right, always the diplomatic voice of reason on the panel. Alyssa Farrenhold occupied her chair with her political background showing in her serious demeanor. Sunny Hostin, the legal expert of the group, had her notes prepared as always. And then there was Joy Behar, sitting at the far end of the table with what witnesses described as an unusual intensity in her eyes that morning. The show's producers had given Teddy the standard rundown. Talk about the music, keep it light, maybe share a funny story from the road. Everyone expected this to be one of those easy, feel-good segments that The View occasionally does between their more heated political discussions. Teddy was excited. He had been a fan of the show for years and was thrilled to finally get his chance to appear. But something was different about Joy that morning. Sources backstage said she seemed agitated from the moment she arrived at the studio. She had been pacing around, muttering under her breath, and asking pointed questions about Teddy's background that seemed unusual for what was supposed to be a simple music interview. The makeup artist noticed it. The producers noticed it. Even the other hosts seemed to sense that something was off. When they brought Teddy out to the panel, the audience greeted him with warm applause. He waved and smiled, taking his seat in the guest chair with the kind of genuine warmth that had made him such a beloved figure in the music world. Whoopi introduced him with her usual professionalism, mentioning his latest album and his upcoming tour dates. "So Teddy," Whoopi began with a smile, "tell us about this new album. I've been listening to it and I have to say, your voice just gets better and better." Teddy lit up at the compliment. "Thank you so much, Whoopi. That means the world coming from you. This album has been such a labor of love. I really tried to dig deep and be vulnerable with these songs, you know? I wanted to share stories that people could relate to, whether they're going through heartbreak or celebrating love or just trying to figure out life." Sarah Haynes jumped in with enthusiasm. "The song Lose Control has been everywhere. My kids are obsessed with it. How does it feel to have a song connect with people across all age groups like that?" "It's incredible," Teddy responded, his eyes lighting up. "When I wrote that song, I was in a really vulnerable place. I was dealing with some personal stuff, and I just poured it all into the music. To see people singing along at concerts, to see families enjoying it together, it's everything I could have hoped for as an artist." Sunny Hostin nodded approvingly. "Your journey has been so inspiring too, from posting covers online to selling out arenas. What would you tell young artists who are trying to follow in your footsteps?" Teddy leaned forward, clearly passionate about the topic. "I would tell them to stay authentic. Don't try to be what you think the industry wants. The thing that connected with people for me was just being myself, being honest in my music. It took time, but the right people found my music and it grew organically. The conversation was flowing naturally. The audience was engaged. The other hosts were asking thoughtful questions. Everything was going exactly as planned. But then Joy Behar decided to speak up." "That's all very nice," Joy interrupted, her tone noticeably sharper than the warm conversation that had been happening. "But let's talk about something more interesting. Your fan base is primarily young women, isn't it?" The question caught everyone off guard. Teddy blinked, clearly not understanding where she was going with this. "Well, I have fans of all ages and genders. Music is universal, you know?" Joy wasn't satisfied with that answer. She leaned forward, her voice taking on an edge that made the other hosts exchange worried glances. "Come on now, let's be honest here. You're a good-looking guy. You sing love songs. You've got the beard, the tattoos. You know exactly what you're doing. Isn't this all just calculated to appeal to a certain demographic?" The studio fell silent. Even the audience seemed confused by the sudden shift in tone. Whoopi looked uncomfortable and tried to redirect. "Joy, I think." But Joy cut her off. No, I want to hear his answer. Because I've been watching your rise to fame, and it all seems very convenient, very calculated. The whole sensitive guy with tattoos thing. It's like you studied what young women want and decided to package yourself that way. Teddy sat back in his chair, clearly taken aback by the accusation. "I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to say. I'm just being myself. I've always been this way. The tattoos, the music, it's all authentic to who I am." "Authentic," Joy repeated with a sarcastic laugh. "That's the word every manufactured artist uses these days. Authentic. But what's authentic about targeting impressionable young women with your music? What's authentic about using your looks to sell records?" The other hosts looked mortified. Sarah Haynes tried to jump in. "Joy, I think maybe we should." "Should what?" Joy snapped, turning her attention briefly to Sarah before focusing back on Teddy. "Should we pretend that the music industry isn't full of people who manipulate their image to make money? Should we pretend that this whole sensitive soul singer act isn't just another marketing strategy?" Teddy's face was starting to show signs of frustration, but he kept his composure. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I think you've got the wrong idea about who I am and why I make music. I started singing in church when I was a kid. I've been writing songs since I was a teenager. This isn't an act for me. This is my life." But Joy was just getting started. "Oh please," Joy continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "Church boy turned heartthrob. How original. Tell me, when did your marketing team come up with that backstory?" The audience was getting uncomfortable now. You could hear murmurs of confusion and disapproval rippling through the studio. Whoopi was shaking her head, clearly frustrated with where this was going. Sunny Hostin looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Alyssa Farrenhold was staring at Joy with obvious disapproval. Teddy took a deep breath, his hands clasped in his lap. "There's no marketing team behind my story because it's not a story. It's my life. I grew up in a small town. My grandfather was a pastor. I learned to sing by watching him lead worship. When my parents got divorced, music became my escape. When I was struggling with depression and anxiety, music saved my life. That's not marketing. That's reality." Joy rolled her eyes dramatically. "Depression and anxiety, of course. Another trendy mental health narrative to connect with your young female fanbase. How convenient that every artist these days has a sob story about mental health struggles." That comment hit different. You could see something shift in Teddy's expression. The other hosts looked genuinely shocked. Sarah Haynes actually gasped audibly. Even some audience members started booing softly. "Excuse me?" Teddy said, his voice still controlled but with a new edge to it. "Did you just call my mental health struggles a marketing narrative?" Joy shrugged, completely unbothered by the reaction she was getting from everyone in the studio. "I'm saying it's awfully convenient. Young women love a damaged artist they think they can fix. It's the perfect formula. Throw in some tattoos, grow a beard, write some emotional songs about your pain, and boom, instant heartthrob status." Whoopi finally found her voice and tried to regain control of the segment. "Joy, I think we need to take a step back here. This is getting way out of line." But Joy wasn't backing down. If anything, she seemed energized by the chaos she was creating. "Out of line? I'm asking the questions that need to be asked. How many young girls have spent their money on this guy's concerts thinking they're connecting with some authentic artist when it's all just calculated manipulation?" Teddy stood up from his chair. Not aggressively, but with purpose. The studio fell completely silent except for the hum of the cameras. "I need to stop you right there," he said, his voice steady but firm. "You can question my music. You can question my success. You can even question my motivations, but when you sit there and mock mental health struggles and suggest that artists are using depression and anxiety as marketing tools, you've crossed a line that I will not tolerate." Joy laughed, actually laughed at his response. "Oh, here we go. The sensitive artist is getting upset. Are you going to storm off the set now? Is that part of the act too?" "This isn't an act," Teddy replied, his voice rising slightly but still controlled. "And the fact that you think someone standing up for mental health awareness is performative says everything about you and nothing about me." Sunny Hostin finally found her voice. "Joy, as someone who deals with legal issues every day, I have to say that what you're doing right now could be considered defamatory. You're making serious accusations without any evidence to back them up." Joy turned on Sunny with the same venom she had been directing at Teddy. "Defamatory? I'm asking legitimate questions about the music industry and how artists market themselves. If he can't handle basic scrutiny, maybe he shouldn't be in this business." Basic scrutiny? Alyssa Farrenhold jumped in, her political background showing as she tried to bring some rationality to the discussion. "Joy, you're not asking about his music or his career. You're attacking his character and making assumptions about his personal life based on absolutely nothing." But Joy was in full attack mode now. She turned back to Teddy with renewed intensity. "You want to talk about character? Let's talk about how you've built your entire career on appealing to vulnerable young women. Let's talk about how you use social media to create this false intimacy with your fans. Let's talk about how you've monetized mental health struggles." The audience was now openly booing. Several people in the front rows were shaking their heads in disgust. One woman actually stood up and started walking toward the exit. The camera operators were looking at each other, unsure of whether they should keep filming. Teddy remained standing, his composure remarkable given what he was facing. "You know what, Joy? I came here today excited to share my music with people. I came here to talk about art, about connecting with fans, about the joy that music can bring to people's lives. But instead, you've decided to turn this into some kind of character assassination based on nothing but your own cynical worldview." "Cynical?" Joy shot back. "I prefer realistic. I've been in this business long enough to see through the manufactured personas and the fake authenticity. And that's exactly what you are. Fake." That word hung in the air like a bomb. Sarah Haynes looked like she was about to cry. Whoopi was frantically trying to signal to the producers to cut to commercial. The audience was getting louder in their disapproval. Teddy nodded slowly, a sad smile crossing his face. "You know what's really tragic here, Joy? You're so determined to find cynicism and manipulation everywhere that you can't recognize genuine emotion when it's right in front of you. You've become so jaded that authenticity looks fake to you." "Don't you dare psychoanalyze me," Joy snapped, pointing her finger at him. "I've been doing this job since before you were born. I know manipulation when I see it. And you are the definition of a manufactured artist trying to play the sensitive card." "And you," Teddy replied, his voice still remarkably calm, "are a bully who's using her platform to tear down someone she's never met based on assumptions and prejudices." The word bully seemed to trigger something in Joy. She stood up from her chair, her face red with anger. "How dare you call me a bully? I'm asking hard questions. That's my job." "Your job," Teddy responded, now matching her intensity but without losing his dignity, "is to conduct interviews, not to launch personal attacks on guests who came here in good faith to share their art with your audience." Whoopi was now openly trying to shut down the segment. "We're going to take a quick commercial break," she announced, looking directly into the camera. But Joy wasn't done. "No, we're not taking a break. I want this fake artist to admit that his entire persona is calculated to manipulate young women into buying his music and concert tickets." That was the moment when Teddy's composure finally cracked, not with anger, but with genuine hurt and disappointment. "You know what breaks my heart about this whole thing, Joy? There are probably young people watching this right now who struggle with mental health, who find comfort in music, who maybe saw something in my story that gave them hope, and you've just told them that their struggles are nothing but marketing material." The studio was now completely silent, except for Joy's heavy breathing. Even she seemed to realize that she had gone too far, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. Instead, she doubled down one final time. "If they're looking for hope in pop music, they're looking in the wrong place," Joy said coldly. And that's when Teddy Swims made the decision that would define this entire confrontation. Teddy looked directly at Joy, then slowly turned to face the camera. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried the weight of absolute conviction. "You know what, Joy? You're right about one thing. If someone is looking for hope, they shouldn't look to you." The audience erupted. Not just scattered applause, but a full standing ovation. People were cheering, whistling, and clapping so loudly that the sound technicians had to adjust their levels. Sarah Haynes was clapping enthusiastically. Alyssa Farrenhold was nodding in approval. Even Sunny Hostin, who rarely shows such obvious emotion, was smiling and applauding. Joy's face went from red to purple. She was pointing at Teddy, her voice shaking with rage. "How dare you? How dare you come on my show and insult me?" "Your show?" Whoopi interjected sharply. "Joy, this is The View. It belongs to all of us. And right now you're embarrassing all of us." But Joy was beyond reason now. She turned to the producers who were standing off camera, gesturing wildly. "Get him out of here! I want him removed from the studio right now!" Teddy remained calm, still facing the audience. "I want everyone watching to know something. Music isn't about manipulation. Music isn't about marketing strategies or calculated personas. Music is about human connection. It's about sharing our experiences, our pain, our joy, our hope. And if my music has helped even one person feel less alone in this world, then every attack, every accusation, every moment of negativity is worth it. The audience was on their feet again, and this time even some of the crew members were clapping. The camera operators, the sound engineers, even some of the producers were showing their support for Teddy. Joy was now frantically trying to get security's attention. "Where is security? I want this man removed immediately." Whoopi stood up, her authority as the moderator finally asserting itself. "Joy, sit down and calm yourself. You've made enough of a spectacle for one morning." "Spectacle?" Joy shrieked. "I'm being disrespected on my own show." "You're disrespecting yourself," Sarah Haynes said quietly, but her microphone picked it up clearly. "And you're disrespecting our guest who came here to share something positive with our audience." Sunny Hostin leaned forward, her legal training evident in her precise words. "Joy, from a professional standpoint, what you've done here today could have serious consequences for this show and for you personally." But Joy was past caring about consequences. She was now walking around the table toward where Teddy was standing. "You think you can come here and make a fool out of me? You think you can turn my own co-hosts against me?" Teddy stepped back, not out of fear but out of courtesy. "Ma'am, I never intended to make a fool out of anyone. You've done that all by yourself." That comment sent Joy over the edge completely. She started yelling, her words barely coherent. Get out of here right now! Security, security!" Finally, 2 security guards appeared from the wings, but instead of approaching Teddy, they seemed confused about what they were supposed to do. One of them looked at Whoopi questioningly. Whoopi shook her head. "The guest is not the problem here." The security guard then looked at Joy, who was still screaming and pointing at Teddy. "Ma'am, we need you to calm down," one of them said gently. "Don't tell me to calm down," Joy yelled back. "Remove him from the studio." Alyssa Farenthold had seen enough. She stood up and walked over to Teddy, extending her hand. "I want to apologize on behalf of this show for how you've been treated here today. This is not who we are." Teddy shook her hand warmly. "Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know." Sarah Haynes joined them, also offering her hand and an apology. "Your music has brought joy to millions of people. You didn't deserve any of this." Sunny Hostin remained seated, but spoke directly to Teddy. "As an attorney, I want you to know that what happened here today was completely unprofessional and potentially actionable. You handled yourself with remarkable grace." The audience was now chanting Teddy's name. "Teddy! Teddy! Teddy!" The sound was growing louder by the second. Joy looked around the studio, seeing that literally everyone was against her. The audience, her co-hosts, the crew, even the security guard seemed to be on Teddy's side. Her isolation was complete and devastating. Teddy walked back to where Joy was standing. Now, much calmer but still breathing heavily, he spoke quietly, so only she and the microphones could hear him. "Joy, I don't know what's going on in your life that made you feel like you needed to attack me today, but I hope you find peace. I really do. And I hope you find a way to use your platform to build people up instead of tearing them down." Joy stared at him, speechless for the first time since the interview began. Teddy turned back to the audience, his voice carrying across the studio without the need to shout. "To everyone who's watching, especially the young people who might be struggling, please know that your pain is valid. Your struggles are real. And there are people in this world who want to help you, who want to support you, who believe in your worth. Don't let anyone tell you that your experiences don't matter." The applause was deafening. People were crying, cheering, and showing their support in ways that The View had rarely seen. Whoopi finally managed to restore some order. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take that commercial break now. When we come back, we'll be joined by our cooking segment." As the camera stopped rolling, something unprecedented happened. The entire audience stood up and started moving toward the stage. They wanted to meet Teddy, to shake his hand, to tell him how much his response had meant to them. The security guards, who had originally been called to remove him, were now helping to manage the crowd of fans who wanted to support him. Joy stood alone at the table, watching as everyone in the studio gravitated toward Teddy. Her co-hosts were chatting with him warmly. The crew was taking pictures with him. The audience members were sharing their own stories with him, telling him how his music had helped them through difficult times. One elderly woman from the audience made her way over to Joy. "Honey," she said gently but firmly, "I've been watching this show for years. What you did today was wrong. That young man came here with nothing but good intentions, and you tried to destroy him for no reason. You should be ashamed of yourself." Joy opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time in her career, Joy Behar was completely speechless. Meanwhile, Teddy was surrounded by people sharing their stories, thanking him for his music, and telling him how his graceful response to Joy's attacks had inspired them. He listened to each person, shook every hand, and treated everyone with the same kindness and respect he had shown throughout the entire ordeal. As the commercial break ended, and they prepared for the next segment, Teddy finally made his way toward the exit. But before he left, he walked back to the panel one more time. He thanked Whoopi, Sarah, Alyssa, and Sunny for their support. Then he looked at Joy one final time. "I hope you have a blessed day, Joy," he said simply. And with that, Teddy Swims walked out of the View studio with his head held high, his dignity intact, and the respect of everyone who had witnessed what had just transpired. Joy Behar remained seated at the table, alone with her thoughts and the consequences of her actions. The cooking segment that followed was awkward and subdued. Joy barely spoke for the rest of the show. When it was over, witnesses reported that she left the studio without speaking to her co-hosts, without speaking to the producers, and without acknowledging what had happened. Teddy Swims had come to The View to promote his music. Instead, he had shown the world what grace under pressure looks like, what authentic character means, and what it truly means to stand up for what's right without losing your humanity in the process. In 29 seconds of attacks, Joy Behar had revealed more about her own character than she ever intended. And in his response, Teddy Swims had shown exactly why his music connects with people around the world.